what the fuck happened to Canada? Canada never had this going on. You seem to be the distillation of all the shit that's going on in the English speaking world. It all seems to be. Is Canada just one gigantic fucking experiment now? I think it must be.
That's exactly what it seems like. It seems to me like they talk about the New World Order. Well, I think we're watching it happen over here right now. And and I don't know if we can vote our way out of it or whatever, but then I hate to dwell on it because I do mention it here and there and I try not to talk about it too much, but it's, I just heard about just like last week, there was like Trudeau was going on about the opposition using AI to write like the script for some of their advertising. And then it turns out that he just dumped $6 billion of my money into AI without telling us what he's planning on using it for.
Oh, fuck me. Hopefully the ballot box will come to the rescue. Is there a political alternative to Trudeau and his...
Yeah, the conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, he's one of those common sense guys. He walks the walk, talks the talk. He seems completely untouchable as far as he seems scandal free. He's an adopted child from a middle to lower class family. His wife is an immigrant. He's got kids. He goes to church. Like, he fits the conservative mold and is also progressive in many ways. Right. And he doesn't dance around questions. Like, people will say to him, are you okay with, or do you support gender affirming care for 4-year-old boys and children? And he goes, I don't want to give drugs to any children. And they're like, yeah, but what about he's like, no kids, no drugs. Like, shut up with this stuff. Yeah. Next question, and he's very clear. He doesn't dance around with like a 7-paragraph answer for a question he's not answering,
Yes, yeah. I've seen that guy. Yes. I've seen him speaking in your parliament, and I've seen the journalists sort of hijack him outside on the street, and try and catch him out. So he's kind of impressive in that regard. At least he is now, without any power. Right now, God knows what he'll do. Yeah. You just can't tell. When's your next election? Do you have one coming up soon, or?
Well, the Canadians don't have fixed elections. It happens at 4 years automatically, but it can happen earlier. Right. Depending on, and we have a minority government, right? So our government's weird. Like, so if you have a minority government, they can team up with another party that lost and then become a majority government. Like, it's absurd. That's
the same in Scotland. We have that in Scotland, but not in the UK. So the UK is slightly different. But we've got elections. We've got an election at the end of this year in the UK, and probably one before that in Scotland as well. So you never know,
Well, yeah. So they tried to. I know Trudeau. He forced an early election on him for himself back during the pandemic, riding on the fear of vaccines and all this stuff, right? And he didn't get any more votes or any less. He just kind of maintained the same status he had. But so that automatically resets it for another 4 years, right? So he was able to give himself a bunch of years, and there's no term limits, right? You can be prime minister for 40 years in Canada. People keep voting you in, right?
Yeah. But that was, so the last election was in 2020 then, was it, or 21?
I'm trying to figure it out here right now. Yeah, so the next one is supposed to be October 20th, 2025. So we're still a ways off for our next election. And they've been trying to force one right now because carbon tax, like, we have the scheduled carbon tax increase that keeps, like, every few months they increase our taxes on all our food and all of our
criminal. It's fucking that is fucking criminal. Ruining people's lives over that ridiculous ideology. It's just
exactly right. Insane. And Trudeau keeps saying things like polluting shouldn't be free. And it's like, what are you talking? Every single thing we do is pollution, according to the way you guys gauge pollution. Like, every time I eat, it's pollution. Every time I shit, it's pollution. Every time I do, and this idea that people shouldn't be able to put gas in their cars. Like, how do you think we're getting to work? Like, we don't have public transportation outside of a couple major cities. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't go to town with any other way but a car. Like, it's, now I realize it's my choice to live in rural Nova Scotia, but we're still in Canada. We don't live in New York City or like Los Angeles or like London, where you could literally, I know, like, you can live in Scotland where you are without a car and do what you need to do. You can go see concerts, you can go to the grocery store, you can see your doctor. I can't do any of that here. I can't even, like, all I can do here without a car is I can go fishing or hunting. That's it. Yeah. And which they don't like. They take our guns away every chance they can.
They don't want you to fish either, do they? You were telling me that about the fishing.
Yeah, they're limiting all sorts of different fishing you can do. They limit all, they don't even want you heating your house with wood burning stoves anymore. Like they're pushing on that now.
We've got that coming here. They're taking our gas fires away. A lot of us have gas fires, and they're taking them away by 2030 or 35, they think. But
we can't even have gas-powered cars by 2035. There'll be a law to buy a gas-powered car in 11 years.
That's the same here. It's Rishi Sunak, because Rishi Sunak put it off from 2030 to 2035. So by 2035, we're going to have no petrol-powered cars. Where's all the electricity going to come from? There isn't enough electricity to do that.
What's it? I think that's the dystopian mentality. Is that's their plan? Is they don't care if you get anywhere. They don't want you to be able to drive where you want and when you want, regardless of how the car is powered. They want us to live in the mega cities where we live in big, tall structures, right? Where our food comes in a tube and our entertainment comes through into goggles, right? And we don't work. We don't own anything. We won't work. We'll just sit around and vegetate and fornicate.
That sounds great. That sounds like the future. I want to be in that future. I want to be 20 again and have that future where you don't have to work. You just lie around fornicating. That sounds great. Let's do that.
It does to a certain degree, I think. But I find that as I get older, like that song I wrote, Feet in the Dirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
That song I wrote, that's about how I feel better about myself the farther I get away from all the flashing lights and the wired stuff. Like this sounds such like a privileged fucking thing to say, but when I go down to the ocean with my beach chair and I sit down and watch a sunset with my dog, and I can look left and I can look right, and I can see miles in both directions, and there's not a human being in sight. I feel better than I can feel anywhere. In that moment. Yeah. And I realize that's not if everybody did that, there wouldn't be a spot on the beach for me to sit. But but that's the way I feel. And I feel like the humanity, like the part that makes us human, is far beyond all that stuff. Like it's, and I think religion's part of that. And I think the reason why the institutions attack religion so wholeheartedly is they know that people who have faith, people who have community, they reject all that stuff because they realize that their values and being different is important, right? Like it's so frustrating for people in Nova Scotia just to watch every decision that's made for them is made by people that live 2,000 kilometers away from them.
Yeah.
They've never been to Nova Scotia. They've never eaten a lobster fresh from the ocean. They've never pulled a tick out of their skin. They've never never crashed their car on a snowy night and hit a tree and didn't have a cell phone signal. They don't know what it's like to exist in that world anymore, right? And they just turn the nose up at it and go like, well, if I don't want it, why should you? And I'm thinking like, I understand why you think that way, but because you believe all the lies, you believe global warming is what they say it is, you believe all these things are bad for the environment. So of course I'm an eco-terrorist in your mind, even though I probably pollute less than most of them. I produce less garbage than most of them, but I do burn more wood than they do. I'm sorry to say, but I don't believe heating my house with chunks of maple trees is actually bad for the environment. When the alternative is, giant fucking lithium-ion batteries fucking stacked up underground somewhere.
I mean, the way to look at it, the way I look at it is that nature needs more carbon in the atmosphere. You're probably right. If you looked at it that way, that might be the only reason we're here. That might be why nature invented big-brained animals that can figure out this stuff, is to burn everything and get it into the atmosphere where it belongs.
It's true, and I read an article the other day that they're claiming that trees cause more global warming than they prevent now. I read this in a Nova Scotia news the other day. They're saying that the forests of Nova Scotia are contributing to the global warming more than they prevent it. And I'm like, so what is the point then? Like, if you literally think the Earth is causing global warming under its own volition, then why the fuck do we even care? Like, why don't we start? why don't we just like try and nuke the sun? Let's try and put the sun out,
Yes.
And then global warming will never be a problem ever again. We'll just be an ice rock, floating through space.
Yeah, it's horrendous, isn't it? It's just like, it's so mad.